Hey, thanks for stopping by Minnesota Black Robe Regiment channel uh, here on YouTube and on Rumble, because we're going to be putting this one out on both. So um, let's get the shenanigans out of the way. Check out the merchandise. Got this wonderful coffee, best coffee you're ever going to have. Got these wonderful beanies that I've got made locally here by a local business owner. Um, Love that one, and this one I like this one especially as well. I like the color schema on this. Yeah. So, and I've got obviously mugs. I've got shot glasses. I've got all sorts of stuff that you can order, and you can head over to Minnesota or MBRR podcast at yahoo.com to find out what pricing is on those for shipping, and more than happy to get it out to you ASAP. And then you can also, if you would, head over to my Subscribe Star and pick a subscription level there. I got an interesting thing coming up on my Subscribe Star here in the next couple of weeks, probably the next week. I'm going to be breaking down my video diary that I did while I was under internal investigation with the Olmsted County Sheriff's Office here in Minnesota for my content. And I'm going to be putting that up on Subscribe Star for my Subscribe Star viewers to kind of see what the day-to-day battle was like for me, where I was at headspace emotionally, and sometimes it's a little ugly, but I thought I'd share it. I mean, why else did I record it? So I do have that ready to go. Going to be breaking it down into digestible chunks there on the Subscribe Star. So head over there and find me at Minnesota Black Robe Regiment podcast on Subscribe Star. So, but what about my roads, right? So we there isn't anything that we do here in the United States that doesn't require roads these days. Even if you're a person who never leaves the house, doesn't have to go out and get, coffee, you can have everything delivered to you. You still rely on the roads, right? You rely on them. And when I talk about how much I despise the state at all of our levels, the municipal state, which is the city, so the city state, the county state, the state state, and the federal state, when I talk about how much I despise the state at all of our levels, I frequently get pushback from people telling me, well, but what about my roads, TC? But what about them? And I say, well, I don't think that we need the state for our roads. I don't think that the state does a good job of taking care of roads. I think it'd be a lot better if we had roads that were privatized. You go and look around your community, look around your town, you look around your city, and you see private gated communities. Their roads are always immaculate, right? Always immaculate, always in perfect shape. Very rarely, if ever, will you ever see a private community or a private driveway that isn't in the best condition. And when I say private driveway, I don't mean, just some rural, field road or little road off into, driveway onto somebody's small piece of property. I'm talking, a private drive where a person has a piece of property back up in the hills somewhere, or, set back. That road is maintained perfectly because it's handled privately. So yeah, I do believe that the answer to better roads is privatization. Just like I think the answer to everything is basically privatization, except for maybe the military, if we could actually get the federal state to do the right thing with the military as far as what it was intended for, like border security. But everybody argues, nope, TC, we got to have roads. And I know constitutionally there's the issue of postal roads and, to be able to deliver the post. But it really, how good is the postal service in the United States today? Tell me, if you have to ship a package, do you prefer to use the USPS, or do you prefer to use UPS or FedEx or some other delivery service? Quite frankly, most of us are going to admit that if we have to send packages, we're going to go with something more reliable than the postal service. So yeah, we do rely on the roads. Whether we ever get on them or not, we're relying on them for something. So we have to have them because they're there and we're used to it. But how does the state maintain roads? How does the state build up and construct roads? How? Well, you know how. I know how. But what's the reality? It's through forcible confiscation of taxes. They take your hard-earned money through the threat of force. They take it from you. They take it from your paycheck, and they use it for varied things. Or they take it from you through sales tax. Here in Minnesota, we have a sales tax. Not every state does, but in Minnesota, we have a sales tax. And in communities like Rochester, Minnesota, not only do we have a sales tax, but Rochester taxes more on the sales tax than what the state does. And that was supposed to be temporary. But here in Minnesota, we just learned that the state just passed a new wheelage tax, if you will. That's going to be a gas tax at the pump that's going to be indexed for inflation. And the sad thing about that is that they've now also added a delivery fee called a road maintenance fee. A fee. So they can get away without calling it a tax. But these taxes are going to attack every single Minnesotan. Every single one of us are going to pay for this to maintain our roads. And many of you have heard me complain about my local municipality. Many of you have heard me complain about how cruddy it is. It's a hit and miss. It's maybe a 50-50 when it comes to how well my roads are plowed in the winter in my own town or with the county that I live in. But you all say, but you rely on those roads, TC. You do. So you have to be willing to pay for it. But what about my roads? But what about your roads? What happens when the state fails you? And when I say the state, there again, I'm talking in all of her levels. What happens when the state fails you, like it did this family in Kennebec County? Let's take a look, should we? A Mora, Minnesota family. Hopefully you guys can see this. A Mora, Minnesota family has effectively had their road shut down. I'm going to read a little bit of this for you. It's shown in the Star Tribune. Mora, Minnesota family seeks county's help in a gravel road dispute. A rural Minnesota family whose gravel road was closed made an impassioned plea to Kennebec County officials to halt what they described as a vendetta against them by the Hillman Township Board. Members of the Township Board have made it their mission to drive us away, said Andy Crisman Tuesday at a public hearing before the Kennebec County Board of Commissioners. We have been met with contempt and unfounded doubt, but I refuse to be shamed into submission. 2 years ago, the township informed the Crisman family that Hornet Street, the half-mile gravel road to their home outside of Mora, had officially ceased to exist and would no longer plow or maintain the road. Last year, the residents in the township's annual meeting voted overwhelmingly in favor of resuming maintenance of the road, but board members said the vote was improper and they would not abide by it. Now the Crismans are asking the county board to overrule the township's road closure, citing a little-used law that allows a county to order township road maintenance. Minnesota Statute 163.16 allows residents to file a complaint with their county board, and if a road has not been properly maintained, if the board finds the complaint has merit, it can order the township to return the road to a passable condition. At Tuesday's public hearing on the complaint, supporters of the Crismans wore green shirts. About a half a dozen people spoke on behalf of the family, asking county officials to remedy what they called an injustice. So people in this community are pouring out support to this family. And the township board, a portion of the state, a part of the state, have just said no. This is such a vindictive matter against this family, said Hillman Township resident Catherine Tram. This is absolutely ridiculous that it's even come this far. A family shouldn't have to struggle. Tram said there are 2 minimum maintenance roads near her home that are well taken care of by the township. Andy Jahula, sorry if I screwed that up, who lives on the Crisman farm, said the township maintains more than 14 miles of gravel roads, including more than 3 miles of roads that nobody lives on. Nobody lives on 3 miles of road that and the township maintains them. The Hillman Township Board has spread misinformation in this case, said Township Resident Jessica Olin. Hillman Township maintains other roads with no residents or only one resident at the end. The Crisman family has not had mail delivery to their home for nearly 2 years, she said, and at times gates have been placed across the road. Here's the state, people. Here it is. Here's what about my roads? Here you are. This is a perfect freaking example for you of where the state screws you over. You pay your taxes, you pay your dues, you do the right thing, and the state just shuts down your road. No explanation. Arbitrarily, seemingly arbitrarily, with some subjective reason as to why. Rick Martins, one of the 3 township supervisors, said the township board believes the issue has been settled in the courts. The township currently maintains the first quarter mile of Hornet Street, but not the last quarter mile leading to the Crisman home, and that's all it has the authority to do, he said. The long-running dispute has seesawed through the legal system. The Crismans lost a lawsuit in Kennebec County District Court, but the judge later reversed his ruling after the Crismans offered new information. So the judge changed his own ruling because the Crismans brought further information. So Hillman Township appealed this. So the state went to the state and appealed it. And the Minnesota Court of Appeals, shock of all shocks, sided with the state in favor of the township, but not before criticizing it for gamesmanship and favoring longtime neighbors over new residents. Right? The Crismans asked the Minnesota Supreme Court to take up the case, but the state's highest court declined, exhausting the family's legal remedies. What in the blue blazes, what in the actual French toast is a person supposed to do when the state is failing you at all of her levels? But what about my roads? In his remarks to the county board, Andy Crisman spoke of growing up on a farm in southern Minnesota and later serving in the U.S. Air Force. Here's a veteran, folks, a veteran who served this nation, who's just trying to live on his own piece of property with his family and take care of them as best as he can. And this is how they're treating him. And here's what he said. I learned the values of hard work, respect for the land, and duty to the community. He said, everywhere I served in the military, everywhere I lived, I was met with respect. It deeply saddens me to say not with the Township Board of Hillman. The county board plans to take the complaint under advisement and announce a decision at its next regular meeting on June 6th. Folks, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to say about this. Okay, what more do you need? What freaking more do you need to snap out of it and realize that they're never going to be on your side? What do you pay taxes for? Crismans are going to be paying these fill taxes. The Crismans are going to be paying these delivery fees. The Crismans don't get any have had no postal delivery for 2 years. They have to go to town, so they have to use the cut and pick and godforsaken road, township forsaken road. For what? You think they're not paying property taxes in that county? You think their tax dollars aren't going to support the local schools? You think their tax dollars aren't going to support road maintenance all over the rest of the township, all over the rest of the county, all over the rest of the state? You think that the money that they earn and pay taxes on isn't doing? They're not getting what they supposedly are paying for. I mean, the township has gone so far as to put barricades over the road, gates, closed it off. Why? And I'll tell you something else. Every single time I start to dig into one of these stories, what I find out is that somehow there's a vendetta in there somewhere where that piece of property is wanted for something. You know, you look at my friend Lisa Hansen from the interchange over in Albert Lea. Her fight with the city of Albert Lea started long before COVID, long before COOF, right? Long before that. They tried to shut the building down there in Albert Lea that Lisa was leasing from them instead of fixing it. And now they managed to evict her from the building after throwing her in jail, imprisoning her for keeping her business open. They managed to do that, got her out of the building, and then sold it for a pretty hefty chunk of money. You want to tell me again about my roads? You want to tell me again about what it looks like to rely on the state for anything? Every single time I hear somebody say, "But what about my roads, TC? How am I going to get places without my roads, TC?" I'm going to point you to this freaking story. And I'm going to point you to the fact that the state of Minnesota, with their trifecta in the leftist progressive garbage hole that St. Paul has become when it comes to the elected servants up there, raising taxes at the pump and instituting a road maintenance fee through a delivery tax. I'm going to point to those and I'm going to ask you, are you more in line with the Crismans, or do you not care because it doesn't affect you yet? To the Crismans, if you see this, Andy, I would love to have you on to talk about this, to an actual conversation to talk about this and to hear your story about why this is happening. And for those of you that are here in Minnesota, or maybe anybody who's interested, I would love to see how many people we could get to show up at that county board meeting on June 6th in Kennebec County. I'd be willing to do that. Let's see what kind of drive it would be for me. Maybe we can show up and make sure the county does the right thing. But once again, Andy, if you see this, reach out to me. I'm going to have some people trying to get a hold of you, and I'd love to have you to come on. I don't care what your politics are. I really don't. What I see is a fellow Minnesota citizen getting screwed over by the state at all of her levels, really. And this is why this channel exists. Because I'm tired of hearing, "What about my roads? What about the roads for the Crismans?" As always, my friends, until next time, fight for your freedom. It belongs to you. Fight for your liberty. It is yours. And sic semper, Tyrannus.